In this tutorial, I'm going to show you 4 basic decrease stitches that create right or left leaning decreases on a knit or a purl row. This is the Carbeth design by Kate Davies, and one of the main features of this design are these diagonal decrease lines that are on the front and the back of the garment. And the yarn, by the way, is the beautiful Aran Waite yarn from Fleece and Harmony, and the colourway is the Devil's Paintbrush. It's a stunning orange. So on a knit row, we have 2 types of decreases. One leans to the right, and that is the knit 2 together, and one leans to the left, and that's called SSK, which stands for slip, slip, knit. When we decrease on a purl row, we also have 2 types of decreases, and that'll show up as right leaning or left leaning on the knit side of the fabric. So a purl 2 together will create a right leaning decrease on the knit side of the fabric. And an SSP, which stands for slip, slip, purl, it's also called LLD, which stands for left leaning decrease, that will create a left leaning decrease on the knit side of the fabric. So the terminology always is referring to how it's going to look on the right side of the final fabric, which is normally the stocking stitch side. First of all, I'm going to show you the decreases used on a knit row, and I'll start with a knit 2 together, which is the right leaning decrease. So I knit up to 2 stitches before my marked point. There's my marked point. And then I'm going to knit these 2 stitches together. And the reason that it's going to end up right leaning is because the second stitch, that's stitch 1, that's stitch 2, is going to end up on top of the first stitch. So there it is there, and you can see that the second stitch is lying on top of the first stitch. So SSK is the name for a left leaning decrease when you're working on a knit row. And to do that, I slip 2 stitches knitwise onto the right hand needle. I then insert the left hand needle into the front of the 2 slipped stitches and knit them both together through the back loop. And there you can see that the first stitch is now lying on top of the second stitch, and that's what makes it a left leaning decrease. Now you might actually wonder why you simply don't start by knitting through the back loop, 2 together through the back loop. But you'll see that does make it a left leaning decrease, but you can see at the base of that stitch that it's been twisted. And that's why we first of all slip the stitches knitwise onto the right hand needle. So if we slip them like this knitwise, what we're actually doing is making the front leg lie backwards and not forwards. Normally a knit stitch will sit like this on the needle, and we're turning them around to sit like that. So that when we do knit them together, the stitch that lies on the top is not twisted. You can see it's just lying straight. I'm on a purl row now, and to make a right leaning decrease which will look right leaning on the knit side of the fabric, I need to do a purl 2 together. And a purl 2 together will make my first purl stitch lie on top of the second purl stitch on the other side of the fabric. So I just purl 2 together, and then I turn it around. And you can see it's a right leaning decrease on the right side, the knit side, and that is the first purl stitch lying on top of the second purl stitch. And finally, when you're working on a purl row and you want to do a left leaning decrease that's going to look left leaning on the right side of the fabric, the knit side of the fabric, you need to do an SSP, which is slip, slip, purl, or an LLD, which is left leaning decrease. And to do that, I need to slip the first 2 stitches knitwise onto the right hand needle like that, and now I'm going to slip them back onto the left hand needle purlwise. So that just means insert the left hand needle straight like that and put them over. And what that's done is just twist the stitches on the needle, so you can see that the leg at the front is now behind the leg at the back, and that's the opposite as to how stitches normally sit on your needles. And then we have to purl them together through the back loop, which means I take the right hand needle and I put it behind and through like that, and then I purl them together And when I turn my work around, you can see it there. It's left leaning on the knit side of the fabric. I hope you found that explanation helpful for you in your projects.